Our Scandinavia and the Baltics group had gone to their own separate ways. We are now on our own. We've moved to a hotel in the center of the city, which is always the most ideal place to be for a traveler. Although for longer durations, a cheaper but larger apartment hotel can also be ideal. It's time to also arrange our way to the next destination. The inspection of where and how to carry several luggage before doing so can be very convenient. This includes all transit point in a connection of different places the whole time you're traveling. It also saves the wheels of your luggage from needless punishment. The Vattenfall Triathlon is part of an athletic race for several years in different countries. It is one of a series of long-distance triathlon races which consist of a swim, a bicycle ride, and a marathon run, raced in that order and without a break. Triathletes compete for fastest overall course completion time, including time transitions between the individual swim, cycle, and run components. A transition area is set up where the athletes change gear for different segments of the race. This is where the switches from swimming to cycling and cycling to running occur. These areas are used to store bicycles, performance apparel, and any other accessories needed for the next stage of the race. To accommodate all different skill levels, there are several different distances for triathlon races. The sport made its debut on the Olympic program at the Sydney Games in 2000. The Royal Palace of Stockholm should be a must-see at this point. The palace dates back to the 18th century and is one of the most interesting historic buildings in Stockholm. Unless it is closed or the queue too long. The streets of the city was nevertheless enchanting and mesmerizing. The festive atmosphere the triathlon brought made the end of our package tour memorable. The city of Stockholm did not tire our feet from continuous walking. We'll be taking our first option, which is the hop-on hop-off bus, to cover more ground at the start of a new day to maximize its cost. Meanwhile, we visit a small church to say a little thank you prayer and to guide us through the trip. Our new hotel is just a stone's throw away from the central station, so we have all the free time to do the things we'd like to do at our own pace. This is the vacation after the vacation. Unfortunately, we found out that our time was not enough since there were still so many things to see within the city. For instance, beside the palace, the reputation of the Stockholm subway being the world's longest art gallery should not be taken lightly. Just as the Moscow subway stations are worthy of being classical architectural marvels, the Stockholm subway stations are modern architectural marvels. The hop-on hop-off bus is always the easiest way to see all the attractions in one go. or make your own itinerary and hop on and hop off at your favorite attractions. The Stockholm bus starts from the Royal Swedish Opera. It has 24 stops and 3 tour companies. It has a green hop-on hop-off Stockholm and red city sightseeing. On the hop-on hop-off sightseeing boats, you can see the city from a totally different perspective. From aboard a boat, seeing the city through its canals, lakes, and rivers. We were able to see the Skansen in Hungary, which may or may not appeal to some travelers. That is why we decided to forgo of the Skansen in Stockholm this time. It involved a lot of walking and primitive roads which can be tiring and time-consuming. Remember that time is a precious commodity when traveling. It has to be spent well to benefit as much as possible for the opportunity to see other places and to spend hard-earned funds. Stamina should also be taken into account as the daily activity is continuous. Skansens are situated in large tracts of land, and if the weather is hot, it may not be advisable to consider. A house with 4 rooms, each decorated in a different era, was the highlight of the Hungarian Skansen. Sveavägen Street is the modern part of Stockholm. Stockholm as it is now, where the working everyday people are, away from the tourist at the old town. In the 19th century, Sweden evolved from a largely agricultural economy into the beginnings of an industrialized, urbanized country. Poverty was still widespread. However, incomes were sufficiently high to finance immigration to distant places, prompting a large portion of the country to leave, especially to the United States. The present economy of Sweden is now a developed, export-oriented economy aided by timber, hydropower, and iron ore. Sweden is a competitive mixed economy featuring a generous universal welfare state. It is financed through relatively high income taxes. This ensures that income is distributed across the entire society. This model is sometimes called the Nordic model. The Swedish economy has extensive and universal social benefits funded by high taxes, close to 50% of GDP. Sweden declared itself neutral during both world wars, thereby avoiding much physical destruction. By the 1930s, Sweden had the world's highest standard of living. The World Economic Forum Competitiveness Index ranks Sweden 4th most competitive. The Index of Economic Freedom ranks Sweden the 21st most free out of 179 countries. We'll be leaving Sweden now and be heading for Norway. The Kingdom of Norway is a sovereign state and unitary monarchy. From the 8th to the 10th century, The wider Scandinavian region was the source of Vikings. The 14th century is described as Norway's golden age with peace and increase in trade. In 1349, the Black Death spread to Norway and had within a year killed a third of the population. Later plagues reduced the population to half the starting point by 1400. The famine in 1695 to 1696 killed roughly 10% of Norway's population. Norway has a population of a little more than 5 million. Norway is considered to be one of the most developed democracies and states of justice in the world. Norway maintains a Nordic welfare model, a comprehensive social security system, and Norwegian society's values are rooted in egalitarian ideals. Defined as a 21st century socialism, the Norwegian state owns key industrial sectors such as oil or hydropower, having extensive reserves of petroleum, natural gas, minerals, lumber, seafood, and fresh water. The petroleum industry accounts for around a quarter of the country's gross domestic product. On a per capita basis, Norway is the world's largest producer of oil and natural gas outside the Middle East. Norway is the fifth largest oil exporter and third largest gas exporter in the world, but it is not a member of OPEC. Norway ranks first on the World Happiness Report. Norway also has one of the lowest crime rates in the world. We have entered the boundaries of Norway at Fetsund, Norway. This is the last stop before Oslo, which is where we get off. Oslo is the capital and most populous city of Norway. Founded in the year 1049 by Harald Hardrada. King Harald V is the current king of Norway. Oslo is an important center for maritime industries and maritime trade in Europe. It was ranked second in the category of business friendliness, behind Amsterdam. It was ranked number 1 in terms of quality of life among the large European cities. Oslo is one of the most expensive cities in the world for living expenses, like Tokyo and London. Because of the city's northern latitude, daylight varies greatly, from more than 18 hours of midsummer, when it never gets completely dark at night, to around 6 hours in midwinter. This is one of the landmarks of Oslo, which is the Oslo Opera House. She Lies is a sculpture constructed of stainless steel and glass panels. It is permanently installed on a concrete platform in the fjord adjacent to the Opera House and floats on the water, moving in response to tides and wind to create an ever-changing face to viewers. The Oslo Opera House is a testament to contemporary Scandinavian design. Just seeing it immediately feels exciting to go to and experience. Walking on it feels exhilarating and inspiring because of the design, the view, and what the building houses. Construction started in 2003 and was completed in 2007. Its $700 million cost was $50 million under its budget of $750 million. The roof of the building angles to ground level. It creates a large plaza that invites pedestrians to walk up and enjoy the panoramic views of Oslo. This part of the city, also called the Barcode, due to the particular form adopted by the skyscrapers, is one of the newest and experimental areas in the city with regards to architecture. Oslo could be considered the meeting point between contemporary architecture and nature. The result of art combined with the magnificence of an untouched landscape. The contemporary monuments don't disturb nature but become part of the whole landscape. At the front area of the museum are parts of its photography exhibit. Karl Johan, who this main street in Oslo is named after, was the King of Sweden as Charles XIV, the King of Norway as Charles III, the Sovereign Prince of Pontecorvo in south-central Italy, and Marshal of France. This 1 kilometer street includes many of Oslo's tourist attractions: the Royal Palace, the Central Station, the National Theatre, and the old university buildings. We also saw a monument in Sweden dedicated to Karl Johan. Karl Johan's Gate is similar to other main streets in Europe that does not allow vehicles. On the small window is a video of Arbat Street, which is another one in Moscow, Russia. Grafton Street in Dublin, Ireland can also be seen on the lower window. It is dedicated to walking pedestrians and is where the restaurants, shops, and buskers can be found. It's typically the place to look for souvenirs. Where are we now?
Still at Karl Johan's Gate.
We've decided to take the Oslo hop-on hop-off bus to be able to make a decision on what to take a look at.
Just a minute, I'll slip something on.
Vouchers here are valid for 24 hours and start at the National Theatre. There are 18 stops around the city and the bus operates between 10 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. The Vigeland Park is the world's largest sculpture park made by a single artist and is one of Norway's most popular tourist attraction. The park is open to visitors all year round. The unique sculpture park is Gustav Vigeland's life work with more than 200 sculptures in bronze, granite, and wrought iron. The Vigeland Park was mainly completed between 1939 and 1949. These sculptures consist of naked human figures in all variety of poses and situations. From the pastoral to the downright surreal, exploring the human form and human life at its purest.
Well, I would hope that she would be living in an unpolluted...
The fountain is one of the park's most notable sights. A magnificent structure surrounded by 20 statues, each representing a different stage of human life from childhood to death. Gustav Vigeland worked for almost 20 years, from 1924 to 1943, and donated his sculptures to the city of Oslo. The carving of this monolith took over 14 years. The Wheel of Life is a sundial positioned at the very end of an axis. Thematically, it continues the journey of life motif prevalent in the rest of the park. It represents eternity, with 4 human figures and a baby locked in a circle, floating in harmony. Hopping on again to continue the route we had not done yet, we come across a small museum we decided to forgo. An enjoyable part of traveling is the exploration of places we had not been to, trying to weigh the options on where to spend our time on. This can be unfortunate or a blessing if traveling on your own. You have no guide, but you manage your own time. Having researched the must-sees of a country is easy, but we can only make educated decisions on secondary attractions. We may later find out that we should have gone somewhere else. Talking to a knowledgeable local when presented with the opportunity and time is always a good option to consider. The Akershus Fortress is a medieval castle that was built to protect and provide a royal residence for Oslo. The castle has also been used as a military base, a prison, and government offices. The fortress is open to the public between 0600 and 2100 daily. The Nobel Peace Prize is one of the 5 Nobel Prizes created by the Swedish industrialist Alfred Nobel, along with the prizes in chemistry, physics, medicine, and literature. The recipient is selected by the Norwegian Nobel Committee, a 5-member committee appointed by the Parliament of Norway. The award ceremony is held annually in the City Hall on the 10th of December. Nobel may have considered Norway better suited to awarding the prize, as it did not have the same militaristic traditions as Sweden. It has been awarded annually to those who have done the most or the best work for fraternity between nations, for the abolition or reduction of standing armies, and for the holding and promotion of peace congresses. Due to its political ideology and interferences, the Nobel Peace Prize has, for most of its history, been the subject of controversies. Nobel laureate receives a diploma, a medal, and a document confirming the prize amount. The prize is worth about $1 million. The awards given to Le Docteur and Henry Kissinger prompted 2 dissenting committee members to resign. Tho refused to accept the prize on the grounds that such bourgeois sentimentalities were not for him and that peace had not actually been achieved in Vietnam. The omission of Mahatma Gandhi has been particularly widely discussed. The committee has confirmed that Gandhi was nominated 4 times and finally a few days before his assassination. The prize is not awarded posthumously. The National Theatre is one of Norway's largest and most prominent venues for performance of dramatic arts. Henrik Johan Ibsen was one of the founders of modernism in theatre. He is the second most frequently performed dramatist in the world after Shakespeare. We head back to Karl Johan's Gate to look for a nice place to eat after a day at two of the must-see attractions at Oslo, Vigilant and the City Hall. We also got to see a small attraction, which is the Oslo Cathedral. The Oslo Cathedral is the main church for the Church of Norway, Diocese of Oslo, as well as the parish church for downtown Oslo. Its denomination is the Church of Norway. The Norwegian royal family and the Norwegian government use the cathedral for public events. It is used for weddings and funerals by the Norwegian royal family.